How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Lone Star Halo Show. Well, I'm Fernando. We got Todd, and we got friend of the show, Frankie Kazarian. We are here to talk Angels baseball, what we love, what we don't love going into this season, all that and more coming up next.
One, two, three, go! Got the news every week. Walk-offs, strikeouts, who's making a name? Who's in the clutch and who's taking the blame? Lone Star Halo, fucking baseball, here we go. Big hats, bad goals, who's gonna rise and who's gonna fall?
Hey, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Lone Star Halo podcast with your host, Todd Fox, and the other host of the show.
The Lone Star Halo.
Yes, sir. And coming from parts unknown, somewhere in California, the one, the only, Frankie Kazarian.
What's going on, guys? That intro video, is that new?
That is.
It is new this year, yes.
That's really, really cool, man. Well done, whoever did that. That was awesome.
Yes.
Appreciate
Shout out
it.
to Randy Yaws, the producer of the Stars.
Okay,
Absolutely.
yeah, really cool, man. Looks
If
really
you ever
cool.
need some work done, he can do some amazing stuff, bro.
Evidently, man, that's really good. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, he'll be glad you liked it. That's for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, man.
Frankie, you're wearing our shirt. We love it. We love you as a wrestler too. We followed your career. Let some of the fans know that don't know too much about your career. Let them know how you got started with that a little bit, and as an Angels fan, most importantly.
Yeah, I mean, as a child of the 80s, so pro wrestling was on my radar at a pretty young age, about 7 years old. Mid 80s wrestling blew up and was on another level. Only rivaled by maybe the Attitude Era and maybe now. I still don't know if we're as enamored with pop culture as we were back then, but it just combined everything I loved: athleticism, show business, larger than life characters, the comic book aspect of it, and it just hooked me when I was really, really young, and I kind of never looked back. And at that time, I was already a baseball fan, enjoyed playing it and watching. Early, mid 80s is when I really got into specifically baseball cards, which made me start following the game when I watched it a lot better, as probably is the same for anybody that grew up in my generation. Baseball cards, and I got to know the players and stats and all that stuff. And being in Southern California, I was always an Angels fan. Some people in my family were Dodgers fans. We won't really talk about that, but so I always kind of followed them and just got into the game, and became pretty obsessed with it as well. For many years, and it, obviously been a fan my entire life, and watched, even though I've threatened to not watch after last season. And
Yeah, right.
I've probably told you guys in conversations, it's like, I don't know, man, I think I'm done. But here I am. I'm right back. I say that every year. I'm a big hypocrite. But so yeah, those two things have always been a constant in my life. It's really two things that I still very much enjoy. Baseball, especially. I am looking forward to this, whole spring and summer, being able to go out and sit down and hopefully watch the Angels at least be competitive this year, man.
Yep. You kind of want to turn that page, right?
Yeah, that's it. That's just it. My expectations aren't, grandiose whatsoever this year. I, honest to God, the same way I approached this last football season. I'm an LA Rams fan, have been my whole life. And that was my approach. I was like, I just want them to be competitive, and they were.
Yeah.
They made the playoffs. They exceeded my expectations. They were, especially as the season got going later, they were fun to watch. That's all I want from the Angels. I'm not of course I want them to win the World Series, but I just want the games in, August to kind of have some meaning this year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, who would have had on their 2025 bingo card that we would see a John Cena heel turn before we saw the Angels back in the playoffs?
No kidding.
No, nobody saw that coming. I've never gotten to ask you this question because I didn't really know too much about the baseball card thing growing up. Do you remember what that first like elusive baseball card you got as a kid? Like you wanted it and you finally got it, and that was like your prized possession.
Oh, you're muted right there, Frankie.
No.
Kind of lost the sound right there. No.
Yeah, I don't know what is going on. We are having a little bit of technical difficulties, ladies and gentlemen.
I think you'll get it right now. But yeah, that's an interesting question because I remember back in the day putting the cards in the spokes of the bikes. It's not the best thing to do if you're a card collector.
You got me?
Yeah, there we go. There we go. Okay.
Yeah, I think my USB is wacky. Anyways,
technology.
Yeah, I'm a caveman when it comes to this. I know if it goes out again, I'll plug it in the other one. But my gateway into collecting baseball cards was Garbage Pail Kids. And
that's not what I was expecting to hear.
I remember those. Those were disgusting.
Me and my cousin collected those, and I remember my dad looking at them. He was like, "Well, what the hell are those?"
Yep,
they're Garbage Pail Kids. He's like, "Why don't you collect baseball cards like a regular kid?" I was like, "Oh, I didn't know that was a thing." So we got into baseball cards, and we were baseball fans. So anyway, yeah. So I immediately, I started collecting just teams like Angels and Dodgers and the California teams, the Padres, the Giants, the A's, and then started collecting my favorite players like Wally Joyner, and my favorite player then and still to this day is Jose Canseco. So I started collecting Jose Canseco baseball cards, and if you grew up collecting baseball cards in the 80s, you know that Jose Canseco's I think it was his 86 Fleer rookie was a really, really hot card for a while. It was it gotten up to like $60, $80, which for me being a kid may as well have been 20,000, so
yeah.
And I had and I still do have them all. I had a good Canseco collection. I had all of his rookies except for that one. I remember finally a buddy of mine got it. I think bought it, and I think I traded him some cards and gave him cash consideration. Like he won the deal financially, but it was just one of those cards I needed, like that. And then I remember the Bo Jackson score football, baseball, where he's wearing the shoulder pads and he has the bat.
He's got the bat on. I had that card.
Yeah, so I bought a box of Score the year that card came out, and I actually ended up getting like 11 of those. Like so,
wow.
I had like a full sheet, and I had a couple to trade and sell and barter with. So those two are ones I remember that personally for me were I was always on the hunt for, and always checking out my Beckett magazines to see, the price increase or decrease or whatever.
That's
mine
awesome.
Mine was a Griffey rookie card. That was my holy grail. I went for that one.
Yep. I remember those two. Yep.
Real quick, Frankie, though, if we can get your theory or what you think the Angels would be if they were a wrestler, would they be a champion? Would they be a mid card, mid level, a jobber?
Based on last season. Oh my God. I mean, they would be like an indie guy that's just not really getting it, that like has just had taken some bad advice and is just, and has had opportunities, but just isn't connecting at all.
Are the Angels a risk in the ring to hurt the talent?
Yeah, well, and to hurt themselves. They're both reckless to their opponent and dangerous to themselves.
Yeah, nobody wants to work with them.
Yeah, and I don't like talking disparagingly about them, but again, I can only go off of how I've seen them play recently, and the most recent was last season, and yeah, they were they were definitely jobber, to use a term from my business. They were definitely 100% jobbers. There's no way to look at it otherwise. All you can do at this point is laugh. You know, that's last year. I just kind of, there was a point I just threw my hands up and I was actually kind of entertained at sometimes at how bad stuff was. Cause it's like, that's all you can do, man. It's like, you know, you love this team and you root for them and you cheer for them. You want them to do good, but it just, at the end of the day, sometimes you're just like, man, it's just bad or worse. You know, there's no other way to look at it.
The difference here is, you know, in your industry, you guys are athletic entertainers, some of the most athletic people on the planet, right? Especially nowadays, the level that wrestling has hit is crazy. And I'm sure you would agree with that, you know, from probably right where you started to where we are now. So with that being said, you know, you guys are still entertainers, right? It's a sports entertainment industry. With that being said, there's specific wrestlers who they are comedic relief, right? You know, I think of Santino Marella and his WWE run, athletic wrestler, gifted wrestler, comedic relief. The Angels are comedic relief, but they're not supposed to be.
Right.
You know, it's supposed to be a serious organization. This is, you know, this isn't Banana Ball.
Yeah, unintentionally funny, really. You know, that's kind of what it was. It was unintentionally funny. You know, they weren't doing this to entertain us. You know, like, because I certainly wasn't entertained. I was, you know, kind of borderline sickened. But you know, again, just, you know, if you're not laughing, you're crying at this point. So
exactly. Hey, at least I get a reaction out of you, right? You're not sitting there quiet.
Something, It just, you know, I really I enjoy keeping interested in baseball towards the end of the year, and you know, and it's just with the Angels those last, you know, 6-8 weeks. It's like, it's not much. Like, usually, you know, the first few months of the season is must see TV for me because I watch religiously, obviously. But it's just like, you know, towards, you know, those August months, September, it's like, what's the point? You know, it's like, I'm just gonna sit here for 2.5-3 hours of my day and be mad. It's like, I don't
gonna
want
ruin
to do
my
that.
night.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. So it's like, you know, there would be times I'd have them on and it'd be like, well, we're down 6 runs in the second inning. It's like, okay, good night. That's it.
Yeah,
You know,
going to sleep early or whatever, going to do something else.
Yeah.
Now, before we get into, like, you know, how you feel about the offseason going into this year, is it also kind of hard? So you've admitted in the past that, you know, your wife is from Canada and she's a Blue Jays fan. So you've also gotten a little bit of a soft spot in your heart for the Blue Jays. Sure. But now that they've also not been as good the last, like, 2 years, has that made it difficult also? Because you don't even have, like, that little bit of success where it's like, well, at least my wife's team's winning.
Yeah, it's, you know, she's pretty, you know, she didn't even bother. She normally gets the Blue Jays package, the MLB package, to watch it. I don't even think she bothered to get it this year because she was just like, she's pretty bummed about the whole thing and the situation with Vladdy and everything. And yeah, like, I didn't even have that to fall back on because they, you know, that unlike the Angels, the Blue Jays had some pretty heavy duty expectations going into last season, you know, and so that was, you know, in a way a lot more disappointing. You know, the Angels being bad is kind of something we've been used to, but the Blue Jays have on paper and still do have a really good squad. And they just, you know, just could not get going. Yes, they're in a very competitive division, but yeah, and that was kind of a double whammy for us. It was just like, well, you know, both of our teams stink, and it's like, you know, there's nothing exciting, and there's injuries, and it was just, you know, and then you couple that with the Dodgers winning everything. It was just like, good Lord, like, man, this just what a big
crappy
L
year
for us. Yeah, it was just an L all around for us all year.
Yeah, I was disgusted last year.
I couldn't wait for football season to start, and I hate doing that because, like you said, like I hate preseason football. You know, like, my thing is just get through preseason healthy and let's start the season. And I still, when the Angels are competitive in September, in prior years, way back, I wouldn't pay attention to my team until like the 4th week, you know, when we were either eliminated or we were in the playoffs, you know? So it's different. It's very different now. But with that being said, now that we're in 2025, we're not the, you know, the always non-optimistic fans. We want this team to be doing good. We've talked on previous episodes of the additions and also the growth from the youth. What are your feelings and what are you most excited about with this team going into the 2025 season?
I mean, right here, I'm looking at the projected lineup, and, you know, from what I can see is we got Ward, Rengifo, Trout, Soler, Moncada, if he's back, if he's going to be healthy, which I think he is. maybe. Hoppy, Seanwell, Adele, and Kevin Newman. I mean, like, yeah. I don't, obviously, the big thing. I'm a Mike Trout guy. First and foremost, I want him to have a healthy season because I think Mike Trout having a healthy season obviously is good for the Angels. Is good for the game of baseball. I think it will shut up a lot of the naysayers. People that saying he's just injury prone and all that. I love the dude. I think he's a great ambassador for the game. I love his approach to life and to the game, and just how humble he is, and I think he still does have another couple good, really, really good years in him. So that for me is a fan. My son's a huge fan of him. So that's something I'm looking forward to. In addition to that, to see these, to see the O'Hoppies and the Shauna Wells, and the Wards, and see how these guys are going to continue to develop this year because, in what was kind of a dumpster fire of a season, there were some glimpses of, this squad, if coached right and if they all remain healthy and stick together, could potentially maybe do something good. Because there were glimpses of some, guys that could be potential all-stars and, potential leaders for this team. So that's kind of what I'm looking for to see how that, I think we'll be able to tell, maybe a couple months into the season how that's going to go. So that's kind of got me a little bit optimistic, here we are, as we are here at, mid-March.
Yeah, there was definitely some positives. I mean, Zach Neto had a sneaky good season. Like Angels fans saw that, but I feel like people around the league haven't really taken notice. Like Zach Neto right now, I understand he's injured. He's a top 10 shortstop in baseball right now. I'm fully confident of that. And I can easily see an avenue by the end of this year. He's flirting with that top 5. He's a 2020 guy when healthy. His defense is pretty good. He is very solid there, and I think he has the potential to be the face of the franchise as Trout slowly starts to phase out of that role. And that comes with everybody. I don't think that's this year. Yeah. But, in the next 3 years, Trout's going to do what Tim Salmon did, right? And now he's going to be a guy, not the guy, and that's fine.
Right, sure.
But you need to earn that too, right? I mean, it's the same thing with the wrestling industry. You don't just go typically from being you started, now you're a mid-carder, and then the goal is to eventually work yourself to the next level, be the guy in the company, right? So can Zach Neto do that? I think the tools are there. But also Logan O'Hoppy, great potential as well. He struggled down the stretch, and I think the biggest reason for that, he was overused.
Yeah. He a lot of games. Yep. Yeah. Caught a lot of games.
And it'll be nice to get Travis d'Arnaud, a respected, established veteran with playoff experience behind him. Yep. Did you like that signing? And did you like the Soler trade? Like, do you think moves like that will help move the needle a little bit, in your opinion?
I think they a little bit. Yeah. I mean, I was, again, I went into the offseason with, anything's kind of going to be an upgrade. Like, I don't, like a lot of people might look at them as lateral moves, but I think it's, just sprinkling those guys in to the lineup will give the Angels, the much needed fresh coat of paint, just those guys kind of balancing things off. And going back to your comparison about Neto and, having a good season and eventually being the guy, to make a comparison to wrestling, it's, anybody can get hot. It's in pro wrestling I'm talking about here. Anybody can get hot and become something for 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years even. I'm a fan of longevity. I was always a fan of. That's why I respect guys like Chris Jericho, guys like Randy Orton, guys that have done this at a high level for a very long time
and reinvent themselves.
Yes, exactly. That's why. And same in baseball. Like any guy can. Not any guy. I shouldn't say that. That's not true at all. But there's a lot of guys that have been able to string together 2-3 years of pretty damn good baseball seasons, and then all of a sudden they just fall off. I mean, we've seen that happen a lot over the years, like that happens a lot because this game is incredibly difficult.
Do you remember in 2017 when Eric Young Jr. replaced Mike Trout when he was hurt and had one of the best runs that an Angel had in the stretch of 2 months?
Yeah. Yeah, things like that. You just, and then people all of a sudden start talking. Oh, is this the guy that's going to replace him and all that? And it's like, no, it's like, like I can appreciate anyone that gets hot and has a couple good seasons, but I'm a fan of longevity. And I hope that that Ohapi, and I hope that all these guys have that longevity. Um, uh, like as a fan, let's just time will tell.
Well, Frankie, I got a question since you brought up the comparison between wrestling and baseball. You remember Triple H when he was big before he got those MCL tears and knee injuries and all those different leg injuries. He was huge. And we were talking the last few years how Mike Trout's been pretty big and he needed to slim down a little bit in our opinion. And it seemed like this year he has. He's done what Triple H did post injury, slimmed down, still muscular, but slimmed down a bit. And he began to go to his second phase of his career. Can Mike Trout, in your opinion, now that he's slimmed down a bit and stay healthy in his 30s?
I mean, I think so. Like, your body changes as you're and I can attest to this as an athlete that's older. Your body changes as you get older. Like my frame is not like, I carry a lot less weight now than I did as a younger guy, just because of that very reason. Like for me, the lighter I am, the better I feel, the better I move. My joints, you're carrying. Mike Trout is a big dude. Like, people don't realize it. Like, people see these baseball players like they're video game characters. Like, the average guy goes stands next to Mike Trout. He's a big dude. Like
he's truly built like a middle linebacker.
He really is, man, like a tight end almost. Like he's and again, going back to the way he approaches the game, the guy that just plays the outfield so ferociously and runs the bases like he does, like that's 220 something pounds, like doing that, like the human body's not meant to really do that for a sustained period of time. So to your point, yes, I think that is going to help him a lot. He probably, as a guy in his 30s now, probably knows his body a lot better than he did, say, when he was 25. Obviously the move, not playing center field anymore is going to help him, I think, a lot. In DHing a lot, it's my only concern there is like, all of Mike Trout's, most of his injuries were not necessarily, they didn't really happen in the field. They happened with his swings and with the base stealing and all that, because he's got such a powerful swing and just the
very bad luck injuries.
The velocity. Yeah. So like, but I do, obviously like center field again, that's a young man's game, and Trout is still a young man, but not necessarily in the game of baseball. So I think that move is definitely going to help, going to keep some of that wear and tear low, especially on his knees. Being able to have the luxury of DHing a little bit more is going to help. And dropping that body weight, is going to, certainly like it takes a lot of stress off of you. Can't maintain that size, like even, I follow bodybuilding too. And like those guys that, when their careers are over, like they drop 70, 80, 90 pounds. Cause you cannot, that size, those guys are that size for like a couple hours when they get to showtime, and then that weight comes off, and it's not, the human body just is not meant to carry that much size. So especially an athlete the caliber of Mike Trout, somebody that runs like he does and hits like he does. So I my hope is that is the case, and that keeps him healthy all years, and we get 140, 150 games out of him.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you. That's a good number. I'd take that any day of the week.
100%.
Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy what some of those bodybuilders do. I've listened to some of the interviews with Chris Van Vliet and Jordan Grace and AJ Styles. Were both talking about like when Jordan Grace was a bodybuilder, AJ Styles was just coming over to WWE, and they were talking about like starving themselves for not starving themselves. You're fasting for 3 days. You're not eating anything. So you can get
water fasting. Yeah.
That's crazy. Have you ever had to do that in your career?
So I do. I mean, I don't, I do like a fasting on a daily basis, because that's kind of what I found in the last like 10 years. It really works for me. But it's not like it's, some people might think it's insane. For me, it's just part of my routine now, but it's not. I never neglect myself, like in terms of like eating. Luckily I don't have to go to those type of extremes. But I mean, it's a sacrifice doing what I do because I would love to enjoy at a baseball game. I'd love to enjoy a hot dog and a beer and some of that badass macaroni in center field and stuff. But I just, some days when I just like, all right, today I'm just going to go nuts. I do, but most of the time I can't because, my body, my physique is my part of my persona, and you have to look a certain way and feel a certain way. Same with these baseball players. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, I get it, man. It's tough. It's a grind, but that's why these guys are, elite athletes.
So let's talk about some of the other moves that happened this offseason, and you can let me know if any of these like bothered you, if you liked them. So the Angels let Patrick Sandoval walk in free agency. He signed a 2-year deal with the Boston Red Sox. In exchange, they got Yusei Kikuchi on a 3-year deal. I have been on record on this podcast saying I feel like you got rid of Patrick Sandoval for a much more consistent and proven Patrick Sandoval. Kikuchi has also had a lot more longevity in terms of innings pitched in his career. He's been a little more consistent and available. And, as an athlete, the best ability is availability, right?
Sure.
You got rid of Griffin Canning and you signed Kyle Hendricks, who essentially is the same pitcher who has World Series experience. He has a little bit more experience under his belt and could take on a leadership role. And he was about 60% cheaper than Griffin Canning ended up being with the New York Mets. They obviously signed Kenley Jansen on a 1 year, $10 million deal. Now, you and I've messaged you a couple times, and I've kind of gotten your feel for it. Did you like those pitching upgrades, in your opinion, or were they not upgrades at all?
I mean, I look at them as slight upgrades. Yeah, I mean, again, after last season, anything is going to be an upgrade. I like the Kikuchi signing. My wife was a big fan of his because he was a Blue Jay, and she liked him when he was there. And I liked Sandoval as an Angel, but he's a guy that he really wore his heart on his sleeve. Like you could tell, like he had no poker face. Like when he would start performing poorly or not getting the calls, it seems like he would just fall apart, man. I don't know if that was like a maturity issue because there were some days like he looked lights out, but I just don't think the consistency was there. So same can be said for Griffin Canning too. These aren't necessarily like the moves. Like I wanted to go nuts and get just a rock star starting 5 lineup, but that's not reality. That's not going to happen. So, I mean, at least they made some moves to try to, I guess, improve the pitching, which has been bad, like we've talked about for a decade almost. Again, time's going to tell. You don't know how these guys are going to perform in this situation. I feel somewhat confident about it, about the starting pitcher situation. Again, only time will tell, but I'm happy we at least did something.
And I had a question, since you are a baseball savant, especially with the Angels. Does the move that Fernando was talking about with Kenley Jansen coming in remind you of a Troy Percival, Lee Arthur Smith from 95? How Lee Arthur came in for that 1-year deal to kind of protect and kind of teach Percival how to close.
It's a great point, man. I never really looked at it like that, but yeah, that could be it. And I mean, if history is any indicator, that would be awesome.
Yeah,
because Percival, he did okay. He's any Angel fans, he's pretty high up there in terms of all-time Angels. So that's if that's the approach that they're looking to do in that situation, I'm all for it, because that obviously benefited Percival, a great deal. So again, it's one of those things. Time will tell. Baseball is it's a long season. It's a long, things develop very slowly. The game is played slowly as opposed to other sports. So if that's something that they're strategically looking to do, I'm all for that as well.
Have you gotten to watch a lot of spring training baseball this season?
Not as much as I would like to. I've been pretty busy on the road. I got to watch a little bit of today's game, and I had to get some business done. So I've seen glimpses here and there. Like I traditionally normally don't necessarily go out of my way to watch a whole lot of spring training. Back when the Angels were in Palm Springs, when I was a little kid, I went all the time. That was different. But like, for me, it's never really been a big indicator for where we're going to be come opening day. And certainly as it gets closer to the season and the lineups start taking shape and they, you start seeing what's kind of going to be the squad. That's when I really start paying attention. But yeah, for me, unfortunately, just scheduling wise, I haven't, been able to, the games are on here at, we're between 12 and 2 o'clock. And a lot of times I'm not here, I'm on the road. So I got a little bit of time off coming up. So I'm going to try to catch as many as I can though.
Yeah, I figured. I figured as much. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
normally, you kind of pencil in those evenings, right? You say that
Yes.
you watch almost the first couple months you watch religiously.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So you get in the routine of watching in the evenings, and during the day, you kind of have to rearrange your entire day just to see Joe Schmo take 2 at bats. No disrespect to those minor leaguers,
right?
Because I love minor league baseball. Those guys are hungry. You're right. Those are the guys who, they actually try during spring training. No disrespect to Mike Trout, but he's not floundering for a spot. I want to ask your opinion where we currently are on number 6, Mr. Anthony Rendon.
Oh, God.
So, yeah, I know you're not his biggest fan. How did you feel when the word came out that, this guy's really not even going to come to spring training? He's hurt already.
Remember when I was telling you guys about how, sometimes I just start laughing? That was one of those situations. We got a joke here, like, my son follows baseball. Obviously, he doesn't know all the players, but he knows most of the Angels because he watches Angels baseball. And Rendon's just a big joke around our house. He got a pack of baseball cards and he got an Anthony Rendon. And it's like, oh, what is this? Like, so like then the joke became, I'm like, I said, man, just get rid of it, and like
put it on your bike.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. I went on the road and opened my gear bag and he had snuck it in there. And I was like, oh, you turd. So then I went and I hid it like in his book bag. And like, so that's kind of our joke. And as a matter of fact, he's at science camp right now with his class. He's in 6th grade. And we were able to send him letters. And I sent him a letter and I put the Rendon card in that. So he's going to like, so that kind of answers your question. Like the guy, like, again, being an athlete, not on the level of these guys at all, but like I understand that like we're under the microscope. And again, people talk about athletes, especially baseball, football players, basketball players, like they're robots, like they're not human beings,
Absolutely.
Just calling them the worst names and just saying stuff that they would never say A, to their face, and B, just hurtful, mean things because they're not playing as they perceive that they should play. It's just, we could do a whole podcast about that, about people's perception of athletes. But so I, again, kind of being in that role, don't ever like to speak ill on guys, but I struggle to find anything nice to say about him, his situation.
His attitude.
I don't attitude 100% his attitude. Even when he first came and he was healthy for those first 7 days or whatever it was, it was just like, again, like, yeah, he just, going back to how I was talking about how I love how Mike Trout approaches the game. If you could do the polar opposite of that, I would say that's how Rendon approaches the game. And the stuff with the fan and the stuff with the suspension and just like, I just don't see the heart and the soul. And like, he's in a privileged position that guys would kill for. And it just appears to me as an outsider, because that's what I am. I'm just a fan. Just that he's even said so much in like interviews, like, well, my family's, I was quoted as saying, my family's my passion, baseball's not. It's like, well, dude, my family's my passion too, but I'm still going to go out there and give 100% in the wrestling ring because I love it. And that's what I do. And that's what they pay me to do. It's like, that's just the things he said has given me an indication that he really doesn't give a damn.
Yeah.
And it's just, it did not surprise me at all. In fact, I was like, you know what? Good. Stay away.
Because I mean, we wound up booing the crap out of him last year on opening day, and I didn't feel bad about it because, like you said, the attitude, the lack of passion for the game, And like for you, Frankie, being a sports figure in wrestling, being popular, being in all the brands, being a face, being a heel, you're on social media and everything else like that. You are, in essence, a celebrity, a figure, an influencer in a way too, if you're pushing products. But the thing is, Frankie, as I'm speaking for you, I'm sure you can agree, whether you're making $1 million a year or what he's making 38 something million a year,
Oh,
you would take pride in what you do, which you already do. But I mean, I bet you can't even think or fathom of acting like that towards
yeah.
fans, towards the league, towards your profession.
100%. You hit the nail on the head, man. That's just it. Pride in your work. Even when I was, maybe wrestling at places where I wasn't happy creatively, I still, anytime I went out there, I never mailed it in. I wanted to do my very best because it's pride in work. Because at the end of the day, that's all you have, man. Is your name and what you do with that name. Anything especially in the professional specter, anything I do, I'm stamping. Anytime I go out there, that's my stamp of approval. I want to do my absolute best. Do I all the time? Do I fall short? Of course, I'm human, just like everyone else, just like any other athlete. But the effort is always there. That's the thing, is the effort.
And people see that. That's the
Yes,
thing,
exactly.
right? Nobody cared that Anthony Rendon went on that podcast and said, "Hey, God and my family are first." Great. You're not the only person who
Right.
would say that, right?
Mhm.
Most people would put one or two things ahead of their career.
Sure.
I'm sure your family is the most important thing to you. That's not controversial. What is
Right.
controversial is when you're going to work and being lackadaisical and literally cashing in, because that's what it feels like. The guy doesn't want to be there.
Yep.
He doesn't act like he wants to be there. Like Mike Trout has had a lot of bad luck injuries. That's not a secret. We've said that here. And I'm sure he would say as much.
Sure.
But the difference is you can hear the passion in his voice
Yeah.
when he's crying and getting
Yeah.
choked up during an interview, upset that it happened. And you know what? I can feel bad for a guy like that because A, I know he wants to be there, and B, you can't blame someone for getting injured. Nobody blames Rendon for getting hurt. It's the way he conducts himself. No hablo inglés, bro. You're getting paid $38 million to
Right.
talk to the media. Shut up. Represent the organization. Forget that. Represent yourself as a man.
Yeah.
The guy comes out as, hey, I'm religious. I'm a God-fearing man. Any God-fearing man has some kind of integrity. Any man should have integrity. So it's just like, that's what irks me. We've all had moments where we've wanted to, put life on the back burner. We've all had moments where you don't want to answer a question, but you represent something. Yourself, the brand. It's unexcusable.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more with everything you just said. I remember that the one interview with Mike Trout last year when he did get choked up and was like holding back tears. Like, I'm just a fan. Like, I was feeling that. Like, that was almost like the equivalent of a good wrestling promo of a wrestler going away saying I'm injured, but it wasn't a promo. This dude's, he breathes, lives this stuff, and he has his whole life. So like, as a fan, like, again, you see that connects with people. Like, they know how much, they see how much, like, you would never see that level of emotion coming out of Anthony Rendon. And you know what? Like, I mean, I'll go so far as to say that, like, the reason he isn't getting healthy is because he probably doesn't put in the effort that a Mike Trout does in the offseason in terms of rehab and
Yep.
stuff. Like, if he approaches that the way he approaches the game, I can see why he's not going to heal at the rate of somebody like Mike Trout or Renhefo or any of these guys when they go and get hurt and just bust their ass to get back as soon as they can. So, yeah, man, I wrote him off a long time ago, and he's not necessarily giving me a reason not to, or a reason to all of a sudden care more about him, because he, again, to your point, he just doesn't seem like he does care. And again, when you're talking that type of money, and especially in a day and age where the economy is what it is, and there's so many people that are struggling, like, not to get on a soapbox here, but just struggling to just provide for their family. And this guy is, had a good season with MVP season for the Nats, and had that great World Series, and basically talk about resting on your laurels. Like, there's people that I can't I can't connect with that mentality, that way of thinking, because I'm not wired that way, and he apparently is.
And it's crazy for $38 million. Find me I mean, I would say a single person, but Anthony Rendon. But find me a group of people who would mail it in. I mean, for $38 million, man, I'll do whatever the hell you want. You know what I mean? Like, literally, you name it, we're gonna get it done. That's a lot of money.
I will say this about number 6, though. With him, I think for me, I'm not in your position, Frankie, being that public figure, but I know I've always wanted to be on that stage playing baseball, and the fact that he could do it. So he's like one of those guys. It's a cliche, but he was God-given talent.
Yeah.
And the fact that he doesn't love it or respect it, I think that's what pisses off the guys like me, the normies that are like, man, I wish I was built like that. I wish I could see the ball, like that as a beach ball instead of like a little.
I wish I had a shred of that talent.
Yeah.
Just like, man, I would do anything.
And that's maybe, and maybe that's why, excuse me, he doesn't respect it, because maybe it is one of those things that he never really had to work for.
Mhm.
Like, it just was one of these, like, call it a God-given gift or whatever it is, just natural ability. Like, maybe that was just something that he innately had. Like, I'll use myself as an example, because I'm the one person I know better than anyone. I was a small kid, and when I got into wrestling, I had to work for everything. I worked to put on size, to learn the craft, everything. It's like, so I appreciate it so much, and there's been guys that have come in through this industry that just kind of, God-given size, a talent, ability, a look, whatever, they don't appreciate it as much as the guy that has grown up loving this. And that could also factor into it. That could be part of why he is the way he is.
Well, to get off that negativity for sure.
Yes.
I got to bring this up real quick before Fernando asks the next one. I'm sorry, but I had to bring this up. But let's see will we see, Frankie, in your opinion, this year, a infield of Renifo at third, shortstop Neto, Christian Moore at second, and Shauna Will at first? Do you think that's going to happen this year?
Potentially. I mean, there's a scenario where that does happen. I don't. Maybe not early on, but we'll see. Again, with injuries, with who's maybe not off to the best start. They might shuffle things up. I'm not sure. I don't know if you guys think that Tim Anderson's going to factor into this as a bench player or not. Like, I know he's.
I think so. I think he's going to break the camp.
What do you think
so
about
too.
What do you think about Kyrie Parrish? He's having probably the best spring right now.
Yeah, really, really unexpected. Got to say, wasn't expecting that, but really good. I know I was kind of watched Tim Anderson from afar, and I always kind of enjoyed the way he played the game.
Mhm.
So when I saw him show up this year, I was like, okay, it's not the worst person to have on the bench, to come up and pinch hit, or like the guys. Did he not win a batting title a few years ago? So.
Either that or he was top 5, 1 or 2.
Yeah, he was right up there. So yeah, again, those are just more moves that kind of can create a little bit of excitement, a little bit of buzz, hopefully.
Yeah, we just need to teach Tim Anderson how to punch.
Yeah,
that's your role right there, Frankie.
I know that's like Angels can hire me to show me how to throw working punches to guys. That wasn't as a shining moment. That was pretty bad. But
by the way, I know you said that you don't really watch a lot of like wrestling outside of TNA.
Yeah.
At least you said that in the past.
Yeah.
Did you see the Travis Scott punch to Cody?
No, I'd heard about it. He busted his eardrum or something, I've had a broken eardrum, and let me tell you, that is such an annoyingly painful injury. It hurts so bad. It just that when I didn't see it, but I heard about it, that upset me, because it was like, Cody should never have been put in that position where an untrained guy is just throwing these haymakers at one of their the golden goose right now, which
Absolutely.
is what Cody is, and it's the thing in our business. There's something called a receipt, and I hope Cody gets that receipt on Travis Scott and can kind of give him a good give him the John Stossel treatment, like a couple good ones right across the face. Yeah, that was I'm not a fan of untrained people being out there doing stuff at all, but that's again a whole other topic.
If that were in the 90s, Bradshaw and Farouk would have handled him.
He would have gotten beaten up in the back. Yeah, he would have gotten beaten. There was a time and there was a day and age where he would have gotten, when he came in the back, he would have gotten, if not beaten up, he would have got, the threat would have been there, definitely.
Yeah.
But you can't. It's a different business now. You can't do that.
Yeah, it's also really tough when he probably didn't have proper training.
Or not enough.
Yeah,
And
none at all.
perhaps was under the influence of some of those left-handed cigarettes or something. Who knows? There's a lot of variables that go into that. But as I said, I'm not a fan. I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze when you have just an entertainer go out there that doesn't necessarily know what he's doing, because our business is very tough, and you can't just be somebody that doesn't know the ins and outs of it and go out there and do stuff like that. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, but I digress. Yeah, that was not good.
For anybody who is interested in watching you on TNA, do you want to share anything? I don't know what you can share,
Sure.
but I will say this: TNA has had a really, really good last few months, especially. The venues are getting bigger. You guys have a big show coming up at USC. I mean, we've already said since you started coming on our show that this is a true golden age of wrestling. All these promotions are doing really well. The competition is great in the industry right now.
TNA, we had a really good 2024, and we're off to a great start this year. Our numbers are up and going up in every measurable metric. We're selling out all the time. We're in bigger venues and selling those out. We got on Sportsnet 360 in Canada, which is huge. It's basically the equivalent of ESPN, or basically up there. And we got that because the void was left when WWE went to Netflix, so we were able to capitalize on that, which was big. I think once we get a bigger distribution deal domestically in the United States, which is something that I know we are working tirelessly on, things are just going to continue to roll and get bigger and better. We have a relationship now with WWE and their NXT brand, and that's putting a lot more eyes on our product. And it's just cool. It's TNA is becoming again, kind of like the place to be and the place people aspire to go to. So as a guy that started there when it was a little tiny company based out of Nashville, to see where it is now is really cool, really exciting for me. It's a really good time to be in that company, and I'm enjoying all the success we're having, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, even for me to think back, I mean, the early days for me, I mean, I just turned 30. So when I think TNA, I think, Universal Studios.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I think back to those days, and I'm sure Todd's on the exact same boat. So it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy to think about those days, to where you guys are now. And I mean, it's only seemingly uphill from here. Like I said, the industry is blowing up in a good way. If there's anybody who has never watched wrestling, my girlfriend at first was like, I don't know how you watch this. And now she gets glued to the TV because I changed her perspective on it. She was watching it and she was like, this is so fake. And of course, as a wrestling fan, you hear the F word and you're all, don't say that.
Yeah.
Don't say that. It's scripted. And that is what it is. It is a choreographed situation.
Sure.
Well, and even then, it's not choreographed per se.
All
right?
the time,
I mean,
Oh, they take some hits.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Certainly. No, it's again, high tide rises all ships, and kind of as WWE goes, the industry follows. So, we're obviously, they're the big dog. That's never going to change ever. We're riding their coattails and trying to capitalize on some of that success, and it's obviously working. It's working for us. It's I've seen it. I've literally, I started back with TNA at the very January of 2023, and to see where we are now is night and day. So it's really cool. I'm I'm fortunate and blessed to be a part of it. And again, it's I think this year is going to be another even bigger year. Last year we made huge strides, and this year I think we're going to do some really, really cool things.
A potential Frankie Kazarian title reign?
That's always been the goal, man. I've made no bones about it. I have, I won the call your shot gauntlet, so I have the opportunity to call my shot and get a world title shot anytime I want. Like you said, we're going to be in Los Angeles. That's SoCal, so maybe it's then. I'm not gonna show my cards just yet, but yeah, that's the look at. I've made no bones about it. That's my goal. That's the one title that's eluded me. I've had every other title in TNA, and that world title is certainly in my crosshairs, man.
Yeah, when you're ready to call your shot, you let Todd and I know we're going to be there in JBL. You better watch out.
Yeah. I need some backup. I need you guys to keep him out of the way so he doesn't clothesline me again.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. Through all your trials and tribulations, coming from modest, wrestling fan to working to where you are today, if and when you win that belt, Frankie, are you going to be emotional in that ring? Like, just are you going to just be like taking it all in? Like, what are your thoughts at that moment if you're holding that belt for the first time?
Yeah, I mean, especially now in my career, I really try to see the forest for the trees and take stuff in. I've been doing this a long time. There's so many years where it was just another show, another night, even like big matches. It was like, okay, cool moment, but it's like, what's next? It's like now, as I know I have more years behind me than I do in front of me, I really try to take in those moments. In terms of something like that, winning the title, I mean, yeah, that's one of those things. I was a 7-8-year-old kid in my bedroom literally dreaming about. So that would not be lost on me. As a character perspective, I'm a bad guy, so I don't know if I'd want to be weeping and crying when I'm out there. It would be much more of a confidence. Yes, I deserve this. This is best for business, that kind of thing. But certainly inside, there would be a very, very emotional, very happy 8-year-old boy that accomplished something that he thought never in a million years would be possible. I mean, because that's essentially what I still am.
So once you made it up the ramp behind the curtains, then you're going to get emotional. Right?
Yeah, I might fall apart a little bit. It's again, these people have an opinion about in wrestling, a belt is just a prop, and I guess that is one way to look at it, because essentially it is. It's it can be viewed as that, but it also is the company putting a great deal of trust and investment and time and money and resources into you, saying, we believe for X amount of time, you are the guy that is on top in this company. And of all the guys that have done this crazy thing called pro wrestling, there's not been a lot of world champions when you look at the numbers. So
absolutely,
for me to finally accomplish that, it would be one of those things I would really, really take in every second of it, because again, it's not lost on me how important that is. How many people would love, going back to the Rendon conversation, how many people would love to just have that opportunity or be in my position or just be able to be a wrestler that can't. That's why I'm doing this for them. I'm doing it for myself, obviously, but I'm doing this for those people. And to give that 8-year-old kid that was me, that inspiration that, wow, this kid from this small town in Southern California did this, maybe I can. So all of that stuff is stuff that I think about often and think about a lot more as I get older.
Yeah, you've have a very decorated, theoretical mantle. You've had multiple championships through multiple promotions, but like you said, you never know when it's going to be the last reign, right? So there's nothing wrong with taking it in. I mean, people see a person holding a belt. My girlfriend watched her first WrestleMania last year. She saw Cody Rhodes win a championship, but that was her first time watching WrestleMania. I mean, I've been a wrestling fan for years. I remember Cody Rhodes, getting the opportunity years ago when he was dashing Cody Rhodes. She didn't know his journey back to WWE. She didn't know the indie shows. She didn't know, the AEW run, him reinventing himself. You know what I mean? So we as fans who have followed the product for years can appreciate that stuff. But nobody can truly appreciate it like you can, or, your family can, because they know the hours you put in.
Yeah.
They know the long hours of travel, the red-eye flights, man, I slept 2 hours last night, but I still need to get this pump in. None of us will ever know that like you will. So there's nothing wrong with enjoying it. You have to, because you never know.
That's a great point, man. Yeah, it is. It's all of that, what you said, all the hours and the sacrifices and the time away from the home and missing birthdays and weddings and funerals and everything else. And there is a lot of people that have, I've been doing this 27 years, and there's a lot of people that grew up watching me and now have kids, which is mind blowing to me, because in my head, I'm still a 18-year-old kid trying to make it.
Yeah,
That's
I need an adult.
Yeah, seriously, man. I still approach it like, I'm still just a hungry kid trying to make it and get a look, I think that's been a major contributing factor to my success. But, there's people that have told me, like, I've been watching you and, this is my son. I showed him TNA and he loves it. And it's so there are people that have been on that journey with me. Wrestling fans are very, very loyal. Again, back to your point about, Cody's backstory. Your girlfriend, she knows what she saw. Oh, this guy, Cody Rhodes. It's like, yeah, no, but he literally walked through hell to get where he is. So like, in wrestling, fans remember that stuff, and it's really cool. So again, it would be a good moment for me, and for anybody that has gone out of their way to follow my career for whatever reason. It'd be a good moment for them too.
Absolutely. We'd all be very proud of you, watching you from those Octagon days all the way through all the promotions you've been in and all the, the struggles. I mean, we don't know half the stuff you went through behind the scenes, because you've mentioned it before on times you've been on, where there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that isn't the greatest, but it's part of the business. So we want you to get to that pinnacle, man. We want to see you there for sure.
That's the goal, man. That's the idea. I'm very, very fortunate, because I'm still I feel better than I deserve. I'm having the time of my life. I think I'm performing at the best level I ever have. TNA's got a great locker room, and I have a very beautiful, supportive wife and wonderful, beautiful son. And it's all because of pro wrestling, man. So I'm very much, very, very appreciative of everything I've achieved and everything I plan to achieve.
All right, Frankie, where can the audience find you if they want to follow you on all the socials?
Twitter or X or whatever we are calling it these days. I am at Frankie Kazarian, and Instagram, I'm Frankie Kazarian _official. Those are the two I'm most active on. During baseball season, you will see me rant a lot about Angel games, or just comment, talk. Like, I'm pretty active on Twitter during baseball games. I'll oftentimes, I'll hear Gooby say something in the booth, and I'll immediately, because we follow each other on Twitter, and I'll immediately like, oh, Gooby, that was great. He'll reference like Striper or some 80s rock band or something, and he'll hit me back. He's like, thanks, and then like I'll like, great call. I'm very active on Twitter during baseball season. If you guys are out there and you're on that social media during baseball, so you can definitely find me there. And I'm actually, baseball season is probably when I'm most active, because I watch the games most every day, and I'm usually outside watching on my back deck with my outdoor TV, and I have my phone, and that's kind of my landline.
It's your escape, if you will.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, yeah.
Well, there you go. We could wrap with Frankie during the baseball season, and hopefully the entire season, not just the first couple months. Hopefully they're playing good enough for us all to be fully invested. And that's my last question to you, Frankie. Not too much has changed in that division. Now, there's also been a lot of subtraction from the teams, like Seattle really didn't do anything, although they have still a good rotation. They didn't do nothing to the lineup. Yep. Texas is just getting guys healthy. They didn't really do much. Oakland's made a couple moves, but they're supposed to be bad.
Yeah.
And, Houston's lost some players.
Yeah.
If the Angels, and I'll put that out there, knock on wood, can stay healthy, can we compete in this division? Forget the rest of the league, because obviously we got to win this division to get in the playoffs if we have a hope. But Frankie, as they stand right now, can we compete in this division, in your opinion?
Yeah, again, based on everything you just said, and everything you just said is absolute fact, yes, we can. There's no reason, again, if healthy and if everybody performs at, the level that they are capable of, We absolutely can. And again, that's why it's so frustrating when we don't.
Yes.
You know,
Good
because yeah, we've had some stretches where the Rangers were really good and where the Astros were really good, and like, but like that's not necessarily the case anymore. It's like those teams are, yes, they still have their like their core squad, but it's nothing like it was. And the Angels can be in the mix. Like, again, I want to be talking to you guys in 2 months, and it's like, oh, the Angels are 3 games out. That's fine.
Yeah.
That would be fine. And again, that's where I'm putting my expectations. I'm not, it's like, oh, we're going to be 8 games in front and that's not going to happen. If it does, I'll eat my words happily. I'll happily.
Yeah, you'd love to be wrong.
Sure. But just to be competitive. And again, back again to your point, we have most of our squad healthy, and we are in that 3 to 5 games out mix come August. Who knows what can happen? You know what I'm saying? Who knows? It's all a matter in baseball. You guys know this. It's all about who peaks at the right time and who gets hot. And if we could stay competitive and we could stay healthy, who knows what could happen? I would be over the moon if the Angels grace us with a playoff appearance, or God forbid, won the division. That would be thrilling to me. And I think we can be competitive. And I'm choosing, at least for the first couple months, to be very optimistic about that.
You just need to kind of hang in there through like August. And then once the calendar flips from August to September, that's when you have to flip the switch, because that's when it matters. Because, that's why the Dodgers for years didn't have success, right? They were always the hottest team until September rolled around.
Yeah.
They took the foot off the gas, and they could never get the job done because of that.
Yep.
And it was always that wild card team, those Giants teams, the Royals in 2015.
Yeah.
That would get hot at the right time, they'd win. And that's what baseball was forever. But,
And it's also, we've been written off for so long. Like the Angels are just kind of like, it's like, all right, well, the AL West, well, the Angels will finish last or second. It's just, it's just like a foregone conclusion. And it's like, okay, like I like proving sports writers wrong and shutting people up. So that would just, again, that would be another cherry on top of it all. If, they just exceeded everybody's expectations and just had a successful season. I mean, it has to be better than last year.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys agree? It absolutely, there's no way.
There's only one way to go.
Right. That's one positive we all have as Angels fans. Like, is I think it's going to be better than last season. Now, how much better is yet to be determined. But like, again, I'm choosing to be positive, man.
Yeah, at some point, the little kid that keeps getting picked on by the schoolyard bully, they're working out. At some point, they're going to come back and
fight back, man.
Yeah, at some point, the bully's going to, get bullied. So
that's it, man.
At some point.
Yeah, if that happens, this fan base is so hungry for that kind of competitive baseball in August.
You're going to see it, man. You're going to see it. Like, that stadium's going to slowly start to get full again, be like it was in the early 2000s, where it was just every night there was 35, 40,000 people there. The energy there, like, even if it's a small market team, that's a really dedicated and committed fan base. So I want to see that.
The fair weather fans will come back, and we're going to be like, we were still here. We were still here the whole time.
Been here the whole time, man.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Frankie, we love having you on, and anytime you want to come on, absolutely feel free. Even if you got to just come on for a couple minutes, because you are a great interview and a great fan. We love Angel fans like you that have that deep roots, man, have that passion.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I love talking baseball with you guys. It's I like doing these things where I'm not only talking about wrestling and stuff, where I'm talking about music and baseball. So I'm definitely down to come back anytime, and let's check back in. A couple months, maybe we'll see. Maybe we'll all be big smiles ear to ear, talking about how great the Angels are doing. Right?
Yeah, we could talk some numbers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, on behalf of all of us here at Halos in the Infield, thanks everybody.